Welcome to the Real Estate Sit Down presented by Double B Homes. My name is Blair Berg. Today I'm joined by Joe Dennis, lead manager for the Pemberton Home Team. And we're going to be talking about prospecting and outbound lead generation. Thanks for joining, Joe.
Thank you for having me.
So let's just dive right into it. Give us a little bit of your background.
Yeah, so I grew up here in Minnesota and was a manager at Chick-fil-A for years. Learned hospitality, learned customer service right there in that field. And to be honest, I kind of stumbled upon real estate. Didn't really know what I was getting into, but I had a mentor at the time that reached out and was like, "Hey, do you want a job?" And I was like, "What's the job?" And so told me about it. I met with some people from the team, and I had been at Chick-fil-A as a manager for a while and had been there for five or 6 years. And I really was impressed by the team and just kind of felt like it was the next step.
And was that this team?
Yes.
Pemberton Home Team?
Yes, sir.
And was it Parker who reached out to you or who?
No, it was the person who actually used to have my current job. Her name was Britt Carson, and she reached out, and I had known her for a while. I had been friends with her family for a while, and so she had recruited me for the job and was an amazing manager for me for the first year that I was with Pemberton Homes.
Okay, that's great. And then when you started, you were still in school, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
I was a junior in college, going for my business degree, and I was at North Central at the time.
Okay. Sweet. My brother went to North Central.
Oh, did he?
Yep. He played lacrosse for their team. I don't even know if it still exists. But so getting into real estate, sounds like you were kind of recruited into that. What interested you about real estate?
Gosh, nothing. I got into it, and that's where I actually started finding my passion for sales. Okay. I had a strong passion for customer service, and for the first year I was with Pemberton Homes, I was doing pretty much just outbound calling and outbound and inbound calls. And I hated the outbound side of it, and I loved the inbound side of it. The inbound side of it, I could just delve into my customer service experience, that passion, and I did great with it and was really good at setting appointments for incoming leads, which is kind of as easy as it gets.
Yeah,
but right. It wasn't for a while that I started. It wasn't for at least a year that I kind of developed a passion for outbound calling. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, it really just came down to it. I shifted my mindset with it. I acquired the right skills to be able to do it well, to be able to actually set appointments with it. And when I started, I think my opening script would be like, if I was calling you, Blair, I would just I would jump on and say, "Hey, is this Blair? Blair, this is Joe with Pemberton Homes Team. Like, how are you?" Like, oh my word. Could I sound any more like a used car salesman? Yeah. And so I hated that part of the job. Mm-hmm. And basically what happened is my department moved to exclusively making outbound calls, and I almost quit. Yeah. I was like, this sucks. I can't do this. But honestly, just the timing of things, I started just coming across the right resources, kind of coming across just, honestly, it was YouTube and Instagram where I was really finding these resources of just people talking about sales, people talking about how to actually get prospects to open up and be able to really find the people who need help.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's great that you put it that way too, because obviously all of us agents would love if it was all inbound. Mm-hmm. That'd be great if people were calling us like, "Hey, I need to buy a house, I need to sell a house." But the outbound part is the part that everyone struggles with. I think we'll talk about that today. But you got it exactly right. It is a mindset thing, because it's when you're young, when you're green still, and get told to go to hell for like the 5th time that day, you're like, "God damn it, I hate this. I do not want to do this anymore." But and it's getting over that hurdle, and it's something that I need to get better at myself. I'm not a huge outbound call guy. I'm just not. Because I know that I don't like receiving them. Mm-hmm. So I try to be cognizant of when I'm doing them, but I know it's something that I should work on, and it is a mindset thing. And for me, I just force a fake smile on my face and say, "No one gives a shit. Just make another call." You know? So that's great. And then you just now recently graduated.
Yes, sir.
And now you're full-time and you're kind of running the ISA, whole department, I should say, of our team, right?
Doing my best.
Yep. So what would you say you're a lead manager, head of ISAs? What is your like typical day? What is your job?
I try to get into the office between 8 and 9. Sometimes later than that, but usually between 8 and 9. That goes. And kind of first thing I do is I spend the first 2 hours doing any admin stuff that I can. I have a lot of stuff under my responsibility to where it's just working in Excel sheets, kind of doing the just kind of typical things of making a team run. And so I'll spend about 2 hours working on that side of things.
Okay.
Around 10 or 11, that's when I really start jumping into my first hour of calling.
Okay.
I try to do 1 hour of calling in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon.
Okay.
And I break that up over different periods because like if I spend way too much time working on Excel projects, I get super drained. I get way too honed in on my work. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of like, I get a little bit too psyched out on it.
Yeah.
But taking that 1 hour break is actually like really energizing for me because it shifts kind of what my thinking is to being all focused on numbers, focused on different formulas for Excel. I shift that out to actually talking with people and shift that into speaking with clients. And it just kind of like gives me a little bit of energy where I do that for 1 hour. And I typically don't do more than an hour. I don't ever do less than that.
Okay.
Like what I set out to do, I will always do that minimum amount of time there.
Well, it's good to like have that parameter set. So let's dive into like the meat of what we're going to be talking about today. Give us some of your best tips. Best tips
is mentality. You say it great earlier where you need to have the right mentality going into this, that you're not jumping on the phones calling somebody just for the sake of making a sale and pushing a product. Mm-hmm. You're jumping on the call to find out, okay, who needs help right now? Who is having a problem in their life? And can we actually solve that problem? Mm-hmm. Like, that's what I think about, is I think about the person who's been leasing a home for renting a home for 3 years and are wanting to get into home ownership. Mm-hmm. I'm looking for that person because that's a person that we can help. We improve their situation, we improve their life, and we make a positive impact.
Yep.
And when it comes down to it, like if I get on the phone with someone and they don't need our help, they don't want our help, and our help wouldn't do any good for them, like I'm just going to wish them the best day that they can have.
Yeah. Because I mean, all you're going to do is frustrate that person and waste your time if you continue to badger them. That's what I know. A lot of salespeople, it's like they're not going to get off the phone until you hang up on them. But to me, it's like real estate's interesting because you can't convince someone that they should sell their home if they're really not looking to sell. I mean, if you're perfectly fine where you're at, it would be very hard to convince me to sell my home right now. Like I have a pretty solid buy and hold plan with my house. I'm not going to just sell it because someone called me and convinced me. So I think it's very important that you say, and something we talked about recently in the last episode is being service-based over being transactional-based. And I think
very well said.
People are drawn to service-based like approaches. So
one of the big things that I would practically get like tattooed on my chest is this one saying that you're a problem solver, not a product pusher.
Exactly.
And so that's what I remind myself of all the time. Like if I were to call someone like you throughout the day, like I hop on the phone with you and find out that you're doing great in your situation. You're in the home that's right for you. You have a great interest rate and you're in the location that is perfect for you. Like, cool. Awesome, Blair. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And it's like, I don't want to try and even like talk you into doing something that's not going to be good for you.
Yeah.
But when I get on the phone with someone, any objection overcomer that I'm kind of pushing or anytime that I kind of press into them, that's only with the goal of trying to get them to open up about what their actual problem is. Because when they open up about their problem and let me know about the actual concerns that they have, that gives me the platform to talk about, well, here's where our team can meet that need. Here's where our team can actually find you the right home that has more space for your family. You have a growing family, and we can find you a spot where that's going to be a better situation for you. Mm-hmm. You're living in downtown Minneapolis and you're sick of being in the cities. Well, okay, let's talk about being able to get your home listed for the right price and being able to find you the right home in the suburbs where you want to be. Like improving your life, bringing you closer to work, giving you less of a commute time so you can spend more time with your family. Like that's what we're here to do.
Yep.
And so I'm just looking for the people that that are in that situation.
Yeah. So having that positive mentality, being more service based, what other tips can you kind of dive in on?
I would say when you're calling, do your best to have a pleasant conversation with every single person that you come in contact with. I spoke with a lady the other day, and I hopped on the phone, and she told me a little bit about her current situation. But she was like, yeah, except for that, my daughter is actually a real estate agent, and if I ever moved forward, I would work with her. Well, I was like, I kind of made a joke about it in the second, was like, well, you know, if my daughter was in real estate, I would never consider working with myself either.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality of it, is like, she laughed at it, and like, we had a really pleasant, like, even though that wasn't an appointment I set, even though like in a sense, like, that didn't go anywhere for us as a company, like, in the end, I had a really enjoyable conversation. I believe that my conversation with her and the kindness that I showed to her just in the way that I spoke and was an actual improvement in her day.
Yeah.
And if you can come across as just being someone kind, someone caring, someone who is polite, like, even though it's a cold call, and a lot of people don't like cold calls, if you can come across just as like, hey, I'm just calling because giving you a call because I'm wanting to see if there's anything we can do to help you. If there's anything we can do to make you to be able to make your future, give you a better future. And it's like, even if that's just having a pleasant conversation with someone.
Yeah. Well, I think especially if you're in the trenches and you're someone who makes prospecting calls every day and you're going to be doing it for hours a day, I think it's going to be the best for your mental well-being to try and keep every conversation positive. Because like I said earlier, it can go negative pretty quick.
Yeah.
So, and if you keep going back to back to back on negative calls, then you just be like, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
If you can at least keep them light, keep them fun, keep them positive, it's going to keep you on the phone longer.
Exactly.
And essentially make you more money in the end because you're willing to make more dials.
I'll get addicted to calling some days. Like, there are some days where I'm just like,
I need to get there.
I have enough caffeine in my bloodstream, and I'm just doing great with all my scripts. I'm having people kind of open up about their situations. I'm setting appointments, and it's like, I'll work an extra 1, 2, 3 hour, probably max of extra 2 hours, because I kind of need a time block. That the other thing is, don't call for 7 hours in a row.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it kind of goes back to the mentality thing. You're not going to be at your best on hour 6.
Yep.
And I think people can sense that on the phones. What do you find that a certain time of day is best for calling?
Yes. The best time period is 4 to 6. People are getting off work, and it's before dinner time. Second to that is probably 11 to 12 or 12 to 1. So okay. I usually do 12 to 1 and 3 to 5 or 4 to 6.
Because I know a lot of people I'll talk to, like, yep, 8 to 10 every day I'm doing my calls. I'm like, if you call me at 8 o'clock in the morning, like, I have a pretty strict thing is like, I'm trying to get better about when I go to bed, when I wake up and go to the gym and stuff. And I usually go to the gym around 5:30, 6 a.m. And I try to not even get into work mode till like 9 a.m. That's when I think it's pretty reasonable to start responding to emails and texts from the previous day to kind of give me time to get up and, be myself. So yeah, I do think 4 to 6, probably a great time because they've had the full day. They're probably unwinding a little bit, getting home from work. So
the one thing is, like, 4 to 6 is best, but you also know yourself and you know your schedule, and 8 to 10 is better than none at all. Even though I don't think calling 8 to 10 is it's not the most productive hour, because you're going to have a lot of times where the phone just rings and you get voicemail.
Yep.
And you get 40 voicemails in a row versus, like, if I'm calling 4 to 6, I'll talk to every other really? number. I mean, that's maybe an exaggeration.
No, but I mean, it's still good. I mean,
it's majority of people are picking up, and I don't want to spend time just getting sent to people's voicemail. It's a waste of my time. And
well, in today's day and age, if someone calls you, essentially, which is a cold call, and leaves you a voicemail, what are the odds you're going to call back?
Next
Pretty
to none.
low. Yeah, exactly. And if anything, so I guess this is another good question. Voicemails over leaving a text. Do you prefer one or the other? Do you do both?
So it kind of comes down to a judgment call, and you kind of end up getting a feel for what works best the more you do it. And so it's not really something that I have systemized necessarily.
Okay.
But let's say, it sometimes depends on how warm the lead is. I will always go after the hottest leads I can find. And so that means starting in the ponds that I know are the most active, and starting with my own nurture leads every single day. Like, I'm not going to go after new leads when I have follow-ups I've set 6 months ago with leads I spoke with then. Like, I'm always going to start with the warmest leads. And it's like, if I'm calling someone back and I had a really good 10-minute long conversation with them 6 months ago, know what they're looking for, and set a good relationship with them, like, yeah, I'll leave a voicemail. But also at that, I will rarely ever say on the voicemail, like, hey, this is Joe with Pemberton Homes Team. I'll just say, hey, this is Joe. Give me a call back.
Yeah.
Because if you tell them what it's all about, odds are they're not going to call you back.
Yeah.
Versus if you just say, like, if you got a voicemail right now and I just said, hey, Blair, this is Joe. Give me a call back whenever is best for you. It's like
kind of like curious, what was that about?
Versus if I was to reach out and say, hey, this is Joe over from Dodge dealership. I know we spoke about that used car that you were thinking about buying. Give me a call back when it's best for you. Like, are you going to call me back?
Probably not.
Not a chance.
Yeah, and the first one works, though, because, you're like, oh, what was that about?
Yeah. And if you can lean more into not coming across as a salesperson and avoiding even having them bring up those objections in the first place, you're going to be way more successful. Mm-hmm. And so I will do my best to make it so that this person thinks they are the only person being called today. Yeah. That I'm calling maybe 3 clients max, and they were one of the ones that I specifically was like, wow, I really think we can help them. Mm-hmm. Yep. And one of the scripts that I'll use is like, I'll hop on the phone and just be like, hey, is this Blair? And role play, hey, is this Blair?
Yeah. Who can I ask who's calling?
Yeah, Blair, this is Joe. I was just between appointments here, and I wanted to give you a call. We spoke and go right into your follow-up right there. Mm-hmm. But even just kind of like saying, like, yeah, I'm just here right in the moment, fully focused on you. And it's actually that you were the one person I thought of today that I needed to hop on the phone with. And all of a sudden, like, you have that priority. Like, I try to convince that person that they have that priority. Mm-hmm. And that I'm not just calling through a list. Like, I'm actually reaching out to you because I can because I think we can make an impact. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, and here's, so I know there was like I said, I need to get better at prospecting. I'll go through spurts where I'm really heavy on it, and then stuff picks up. Mm-hmm. I get a little less on it. But one thing I saw that would get good returns, I wouldn't say totally positive, but Parker loves talking about video text. Mm-hmm. So I would send out video text, and I was getting a lot more replies, but they generally weren't positive. Like, who the hell is this? So do you ever send like videos?
Only to ones that I've been nurturing. Yeah. I realistically, my phone storage is going to fill up if I'm reaching out to every lead with a video, but videos are really, really solid for a lead that you're starting to convert. Like, if you're close to setting an appointment with them, if you've kind of talked about getting them set up on a search and you've been on the phone, and then you can reach out and kind of give them a face to the name and just convey to them like that, like, and by sending that video showing them the priority that they are, I usually have really good response rates, and I rarely get ghosted on those.
Well, I usually consider that as like, if you're talking about outbound calling as like fishing, I think the best time to use a video call, like you said, is like you're setting the hook. You've already talked to them. It's not a cold lead at that point. And then, like you said, you're kind of setting that hook. They're like, okay, now I know the guy I've been talking to. Mm-hmm. But I generally wouldn't start with a video with someone you don't know. Have that conversation first. So are there like a lot of different scripts that you use? Do you kind of just let it flow? You shoot from the hip? What does that kind of look like?
When you're new, you need scripts. Okay. When you're starting out, you have to follow those to be able to learn kind of how to navigate that conversation. Mm-hmm. When you master that craft, when you've memorized that script, when you've done that script 50 times with different prospects, it's ingrained in your brain. Mm-hmm. And it's a really, really powerful point in your sales career, because that's the point where you can just start you can be 100% in the moment, because when you're following a script, you have 30% of your brain looking at reading paper, 30% focused on the client, and then like another 30 focused on how you're sounding, how you're communicating, what you're actually saying to the person, and then another 10% focused on the person across the office doing something weird. And
I think that's a good point. Scripts in the beginning, super good. So you actually like, you have, and I always like the scripting that's like a flow chart. So you can see like, because I think in the beginning, if you're just working off like a word sheet and you're like, oh, I wasn't prepared for this response. Like, what do I say? And like you said, if you're too focused on the script, and it doesn't free up your brain to improvise off of that answer you weren't expecting, then you kind of just like want to hang up. You're like, bye.
Yeah.
So with that being said, getting more comfortable. So I'm assuming you use less scripting now. You kind of have a feel for it. So it's probably, I mean, making the calls is huge. Just so you can practice that. Were in the beginning, were you doing like role plays and stuff too? I know that's pretty big with people that do a lot of outbound calls, just to kind of practice those scripts.
It was one of the best things for becoming better. And it wasn't something that I started doing for about 6 months into doing it, because it's uncomfortable, it's weird, and it's like, it's not necessarily fun, and it just is awkward.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it was one of the things that really made me better at my job.
Well, and that's the awkward face-to-face thing. Like you said, I suck at it because I don't want to do it, because I'm like, this feels weird. But the thing is, once you can master that, then making phone calls is no big deal, because it's less awkward than pretending to be someone else, like talking to someone else pretending to be someone. So.
And I mean, you can mess up on a call, and then that's a potential appointment that you could have set, or you can mess up in the mirror. Which would you rather do?
Exactly.
And it's like, if you take the time to invest into yourself, I think about it this way: the better I get at cold calling, the less cold calling I have to do. Because the better I get, that means some more appointments I'm setting, and that means some more genuine conversations. Because like, I really think of it like the call starts out cold, and it either ends cold or it starts to warm up and you start to go somewhere.
Yep.
And the goal is realistically, you're going to find that out in the first 20 to 30 seconds of your call. And if I spend 5 minutes a day focusing on that first 20 to 30 seconds of my call, that means that those leads that I speak to, that means that 50% of them are going to open up. And that's 50% just dead ends that I have to go through.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So by refining your process, you're making more money, you're making less, you have to make less calls to make the same amount of money. So, and I know you said in the beginning it was huge for you, just like YouTube, other social media platforms to kind of pick up stuff. Do you have any recommendations of like pages, channels, or people online that helped you out?
Yeah. I've watched a couple of videos from Ricky Carruth. I don't agree with him on everything.
Yeah.
But he's a great resource.
Yeah.
And there's one guy that I kind of follow pretty religiously when it comes to cold calling scripting, and his name is Jeremy Miner.
Okay.
He works in all different business sectors: customer, business to consumer, business to business. And he just has really solid tips about like actually getting customers to, or clients or leads to open up and actually be able to talk to them, rather than just making calls trying to find the one person who's like, oh yeah, I'm looking for a home. Like actually being like, wow, okay, this person like really knows what they're this person knows what they're talking about, and this person can help me. So
yeah, and Ricky Carruth I feel like is always the one that pops up when I talk to anyone about outbound calling. Yeah. And like you said, I think anyone that you follow, you're going to take some things from, but it's not going to be all for you, because it is such a mentality based, personalized thing that really you can take the framework, but you have to give it some life of its own from yourself.
Yes.
So we've talked about some good tips. What are some things you would recommend people avoid when calling?
Avoid that idea of jumping on, just being like, hey, this is Blair with Pemberton Homes team. Like, avoid trying to come across as extremely excited, extremely just like fake.
Yeah.
Come down to it, be yourself, but be the best version of yourself. And to a degree, everyone I have to turn it on and turn it off. But I really just kind of amplify my best characteristics on a call.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you could call that being fake, or you can call that just or you can call it just being strategic. And
well, and like you said too, I mean, it's not fake because it is you.
It is me.
And I think that's like true with all lead generation sources. Like if you're not being authentic, people can pick up on that. So they have so many options nowadays too. It's like if they don't like your vibe, they can find another real estate agent pretty quick. Because I think, I guess, again, this is coming from someone who doesn't prospect as much as you do, but when I think about things to avoid, I think avoiding too much of the real estate jargon and really getting too deep into the weeds in that. Like you said, stick to helping people, finding what is ailing them, and then look for a solution to that. Don't start throwing out a bunch of interest rates and other real estate terms where it's just going to confuse them a little bit. Find that solution and get them excited about that. I think is like a huge thing.
I spoke with a lead the other day and hopped on the phone with him, and it was a seller lead. So I was just kind of like went into it and just kind of started talking about just his process for selling a home. And he's like, yeah, I'm really not ready. And I just kind of asked him, I was like, well, I mean, if it came down to it, when the time is right, what would make you want to sell? And he's like, well, I guess right now I just feel like I have way too much space, and I'm kind of sick of mowing my yard every day. And I'm like, there it is. There's a pain point. And so I just kind of started talking to him. I'm like, okay, well, tell me a little bit about like your ideal home. Like, and he just starts talking and he tells me all about it. He's like, yeah, I want to be on the lake. I want to be over by Prior Lake, Lake Minnetonka. And he's like, I want something that's only like 2 bedrooms. Right now I have a 5-bedroom home and I'm just sick of it.
Yeah. And
from there, I just kept asking questions that kept having him open up. And at the end of the call, he was basically like, he was like, wow, like, he was practically begging us to help him move forward. And so I was able to set that buyer seller listing appointment. And even though in the very beginning he said, yeah, we're not looking to sell, the fact that I just kind of asked the right question there and just was like able to just have a polite conversation where I didn't come across as some sales agent who will do anything he can to set the appointment. And I was just looking to help him. Like, he ended up setting an appointment, and I think we're right now working with him to find him that home.
That's great. Yeah, and like you said, you focused on his pain point and got him there. I mean, before we go, any last tips or things to avoid that you think we didn't touch on? Any big things?
Yeah, the one thing I thought of is when it comes to prospecting, it's a level of discipline. And a lot of people have different preferences. Like, oh, I'm going to come in, I'm going to make 50 calls, or I'm going to talk to this many people. What I always tell people is just set it in your schedule that you're going to make calls from 10:30 to 11:30. And you're not going to go much longer, that you get to be free from it at that point when you hit that hour end mark. But time block that schedule and just know that from that time, you're not doing any admin work. You're not picking up the phone for anything else. You're not doing anything else. That is just cold calling right there for that 1 hour. And I think that's the most successful.
And I think, like you said, I think that is huge, because I think where I trip myself up when prospecting is I don't time block it appropriately. Like, I put the time block on my calendar and then I'll make 5 calls and I'm like, oh, I forgot to do this. And I'll start. And then by the end of it, I'm like, oh, I only really called for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's the huge part, is just time blocking and making sure you stick to that time block. But yeah, I mean, anything else you can think of?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, I mean, you could set that you're going to make 50 calls a day. But I mean, if you make 50 calls and none of them pick up, I mean, that's probably about 25 minutes versus, let's say you make 50 calls and almost every single one of them pick up. And that's at least a 5-minute conversation with each one of those. I mean, all of a sudden that's like 3.5 hours. And it just, I don't think it's that realistic to set your goals based on how many calls you want to make.
Exactly. I set it by time, not by context. Because like you said, they could vary wildly based on who picks up. And, you get those people who chat for a long time too. So sometimes one call is like 15 minutes. And hopefully that's a good lead.
Yeah. I was going to say any successful call is at least probably 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, Joe, this has been great. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.